PJ, you literally had 23 hours,
You can't.
59 minutes, and 59 seconds to clear your throat.
You can't tell when I'm about to clear my throat.
And
You're the one that put the mic up.
And you wait until as soon as I turn the microphones on to hit us with a. Listen, we can't teach Ben. Ben, it is locked in.
It's like
as soon as he gets 3 words into a statement, there's going to be a. It's just it is what it is.
You just need it. Okay, I can't just start talking. All right, my voice and my throat is odd. Like if I just start talking, just bad noises will come out. Like all the bad noises that no one wants to hear. So like I have to clear. Like every show, every commercial break. If there was like, you should know, like I'm gonna clear my throat.
That's
like,
fine.
It's gonna happen.
Do it during the commercial break.
During the intro, I should say. And I just, I don't get why you don't know when I'm gonna clear my throat. Like that's on you, man.
I don't get why you don't know that when the intro music's playing, maybe you shouldn't be clearing your throat.
It's just, it's not even like something you think about, right? It just happens now. Like you just
well,
do
maybe
it.
Let's not do that.
Okay, I will try.
It's like a quarterback's coach teaching the quarterback not to flip the ball when he's dropping back. Like you don't want to do that.
That's fine.
High and tight.
I've been doing this for like 9
and
a
now
half.
You're about to resume me.
9.5, 10 years. No, it's not even that. I will try and change that habit and ritual and just subconscious nature. I'll try and change it in a matter of a couple minutes. So
I think you should.
I'll try. Sure.
Maybe we can do some vocal exercises during the break. Oh my goodness.
That was too obvious.
Nobody wants to hear this.
I should have waited. I was a little bit too obvious.
You want to talk some college football, or we want to keep talking about your phlegm?
I would love to talk college football. Again, a lot like yesterday, you did this. You decided to start the show this way.
No, you decided
to just let it go.
Literally, the first sound of our show today was you clearing your throat.
The thing is, I don't even know if anyone other than us heard that because the music was still playing. Like, I'm sure if people are driving around in their cars, like they have other noises around that had masked what that was. But like since
if you heard PJ clear his throat, 912-342-7184, we want to hear from you. What was your experience like? Are you experiencing any stress from it? Did it cause you well, okay, you have one supporter, PJ. Moose supports you.
Thank goodness, man.
I wouldn't expect anything different than from someone named Moose.
There we go.
Moose makes
what is that supposed to mean?
Because a moose makes a lot of sound.
Like come on now.
You kind of sounded like a moose when you were clearing your throat.
It was very subtle and quiet. I did not sound like a moose. And Moose, there's nothing wrong with how you sound. Don't listen to him. Thank you, by the way.
All right, well, Moose, PJ, can we talk some college football now?
I'd love to. Can you stop talking about the way I clear my throat?
I would rather never talk about it again because that would mean you've gotten rid of that bad habit.
I don't know if it would. I think it's just something like we draw on the whiteboard and say, let's not talk about this anymore.
Oh no. Let's go.
Come on.
All right, we got a phone call, but before that comes up, let's start talking some college football. Some good news for the University of Georgia. Now, we've talked about them losing a ton of players on the defensive side of the ball, right? This past year, Georgia's offense really good, about 33, 34 points a game. Good enough with that defense to win every game by double digits. And I mean, what was it, like a 17 points at least? Like that teams just weren't able to stay within. So Georgia's defense last year was dominant, but you're losing so many people that you have to think you're not going to be holding people to 6.9 points per game in the regular season again, right? So you're going to get into some games where there's 20, 30 points on the board where you have to score that much. So looking at the offense, probably going to be Stetson back there slinging the rock around at least at the beginning. There's a lot of Georgia fans out there, even after he wins a national championship, they're like, is it Brock time?
It's got to be, right?
Maybe Gunner time. Like, no, it's going to be Stetson back there when they play Oregon.
You can't even call it like a what have you done for me lately with those fans because it's like he won you a national championship. Yeah, that's what he did for you lately.
Basically threw for 577 yards and 6 touchdowns?
Somewhere around there.
He had 3 against Michigan and 3 against Alabama?
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Or is it 2 against
Anyway,
Alabama?
I'm
Either
not-
way.
Sorry,
Maybe like 5
I
and
just
577. I don't know. Either
because
way.
that's what like everyone always says. Like, oh, so what have you done for me lately? League, like, no, he literally won the national championship. No, anyway.
But I think the question mark, and I think it's a legitimate question that I've had is running backs are going to be good. Kenny McIntosh, Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards, they're going to be really good. You got some running backs coming in as well that should be really good. The Branson Robinson kid like looks like Nick Chubb kind of like body type, right? And so you have a ton of running backs coming in. Offensive line, I think, is going to be really good next year, even though now the big news is who's going to replace Matt Luke, which there's a lot of interesting names floating around. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But still, you got to think with the plethora of 5 stars Georgia has on that line of scrimmage, offensive line should be really good. Wide receiver and like pass catchers, I think, is the question mark, right? Because you may have like the best like Madden rating player in college football next year in Brock Bowers. Like if you just straight up did power rankings. Like, how good is he? Brock Bowers is a 98, 99 tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba is the higher rated player. And then, I don't know, who's a better, like, is Caleb Williams a better quarterback than Brock Bowers as a tight end? I don't know.
Right.
Probably not.
Probably not.
So you have him, but like, who's going to be that wide receiver? Because you lose your top 2 from the beginning of last year, right? George Pickens enters the draft, and then Jermaine Burton transfers to Alabama. So if there's like one weakness on this offense, it'd be probably the pass catchers, even with Brock Bowers. Well, there's some good news from Anthony Dasher, and he wrote, excuse me, I just did a PJ. There we go. See?
So we'll
see
that,
you cursed
listen,
me.
No, that doesn't have to happen. Like, this doesn't have to be a thing.
It is a thing.
Every time
I wanted to
someone
apologize.
needs to clear their
We're going to
throat,
start a
like,
fine system.
Happens.
We're going to start a fine system. $1 for every throat clearing.
Listen to your
donate
go listen to your favorite sports talk, whatever commentary person that you listen to who talks for hours on end. And guess what? They're gonna need to clear their throat sometimes.
Buckaloo never clears his throat
because he does it.
Anyway, Georgia getting some much needed help, I believe, in the wide receiver ranks, but from a name maybe not a lot of people were expecting. How about this? Eric Gilbert back with Georgia practicing. And practice is a very loose term. This is the time of the year where they're at 7 a.m. running in the stadium.
Yeah.
But Eric Gilbert is back with the football team. And this is from Anthony Dasher. He says, to Kirby Smart's credit, he stuck with the Marietta native who rejoined the program back in January. Georgia lists Gilbert as a wide receiver, although we understand he's going to need to get his weight down lower than what it is. This spring will be huge from that standpoint of getting back in shape. He'll need to be this fall. If he can, Gilbert can help make up for the losses of Burton and I would say Pickens too, and give Todd Monken potentially another huge offensive piece.
Yeah.
So I think if you say it out loud, potentially when you come out against Oregon, it could be, I don't know who, Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint on one side, maybe Dominic Blaylock, A.D. Mitchell, and then Eric Gilbert, and then one of the 2 tight ends, Brock Bowers or Darnell Washington, or you're going to get real nasty with it, Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers and Eric Gilbert, and then a wide receiver.
Just massive.
But I mean, think about matchups.
Good luck.
Wait, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, if you have those 3 guys all on the field.
No, that's an honest question is what are you doing? Because like a lot of like you'll hear coaches a lot of times calling out like numbers, right? Like 13, 11, 10, they're just telling you what the personnel packages are. And from those packages, you have designated defensive units that you send out to deal with those packages. And so typically when you hear 3 tight ends, you're going, all right, this is like a goal line situation. We're probably either going base or maybe even put an extra linebacker or a defensive lineman out there, maybe a bear front, maybe a 5-2. Who knows what you want to do in that situation? But there's a legitimate case to be made that when Georgia puts 3 tight ends out there, you should go to your nickel package.
Yeah.
Or your dime.
Right. And then even at that point, like our corners with the dime package or the corner, like with our corners big enough to be able to successfully cover them. Then you have a situation where you're like, who's actually on the tight ends? Do we put a safety on them for a little bit more size or a linebacker? But then they're going to get outran. Like,
or to me, it's a lot simpler than that. Is you just go, okay, they put their dime or nickel package out here, and we have 3 tight ends on the field. I'm turning around and handing the football off.
Yeah. Period. Let's just move them.
Yeah. And like that's exactly what happened in Michigan.
Yeah. Significant problem for any other team. And the thing, yeah, like matchups wise, that's going to be insane. But also like the thing that I heard in there too is it got to get his conditioning down, everything like that. Let's be real. Let's not. No one look at that and be concerned. right?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, these dudes are just physical specimens. Like even if you take the best guy in whatever gym you go to, if they walk into a football practice or a football facility and say, all right, I want to play some football with you guys, the first thing they're going to say, if not just get out, the first thing that they're going to say is, all right, we need to slim you down a little bit and get you in the condition because, we need to condition you a little bit.
Game shape is so much different.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Right?
And like all those dudes are mutants. Like Eric Gilbert is a mutant, but it's a little bit different, just the practice and game shape. But that's what they're doing right now. And Kirby Smart kind of made a reference to this time of year in his national championship speech in Sanford Stadium, where he was like, this started back in February at 7 a.m. running stadium steps. And so Georgia actually tweeted out some pictures from Sanford Stadium, dark, kind of cloudy, misty, 6, 7 a.m. Those dudes out there getting after it. So it's interesting. This Georgia offense, I think next year, especially with some continuity, Stetson Bennett said this at the parade in Blackshear, he's kind of like looking forward to actually having an offseason where he's the guy with his wide receiver.
I can imagine.
Because you really didn't have that last year. He was a third-string quarterback.
Yeah. And think of exactly, you think of his process and where he's come from. It's been a whole lot of, all right, you're the guy that prepares the guy for his time to shine, right?
Yeah, even beyond
now
that,
instead, and now instead it's not. These are my guys. This is my unit. Let's go out there and get it done again. Let's defend this national championship. So yeah, it's got to be an incredible feeling and one that he's felt before. Like with those Pierce County teams, he was that dude. Like for all 3 or 4 years that he played there. So I mean, this is something that he's been able to do before, but now you get to do it obviously for the University of Georgia. That's a totally different feeling, and I'm sure something that he certainly can't wait for. But also, like people, I think it's almost overused, and people think it's cliche because they hear it so much. But you hear it so much because it's so true. The February, like starting, this is a full year thing. It all started back in February when we started doing this. They say it because it's true, man. Like it's exactly what Nick Saban was talking about. And people say, was he just saying this to get a message across? Who knows? It's exactly what Nick Saban was talking about a few weeks ago when he was mentioning those guys who didn't take those moments seriously enough, especially throughout the season, because they were just worried about their playing time and worried about, well, I mean, I'm not playing enough, so I don't have to pay attention. Well, guess what? National championship, you're in. Are you ready to go? You start that process in February.
There's still some interesting pieces that have to fall for Georgia. Again, still looking for an offensive line coach, and there's been some interesting names that have been thrown around there. But also at the same time, JT Daniels is still in the transfer portal. He's actually still at Georgia finishing up some classes to graduate, but we don't know where he's heading. It's getting kind of late in the process there. Yeah. And a lot of people have pointed at Darnell Washington saying, like, could he be the odd man out? I think that's an interesting question, but I think Darnell Washington, and I don't want to speak for him, but I have to imagine most players of his stature, like literally and figuratively,
right.
The goal is make it to the NFL, right? But when you look at Georgia, they put all kinds of tight ends into the NFL, right?
Yeah.
And it's usually not the guy who's out there making these splashy plays. Georgia has, I'd say, 4 tight ends in the league right now that you probably wouldn't be able to pick them out of the lineup.
Yeah.
Right. Like Isaac Nada was supposed to be the big time tight end, the pass catcher, the flashy guy. But what the NFL looks for with Kyle Shanahan and those kind of offenses is the Lee Smiths kind of tight ends, right? Where it's just, you can be an inline blocker. You can be that 5th or 6th, or excuse me, that 6th offensive lineman on there and then kind of come out to the flat, make some plays that way. But we'll have our star tight end, but also we want to go too tight and block on one side. Right. Darnell Washington, I kind of think fits both those molds where if he can get 15, 20 more touches next year, which is a lot, that'd be a big increase. A couple more touches a game, though, when you really break it down, get that on tape. He already has the blocking tape to where I think he's a 3rd-round pick already.
Right.
Just how big he is and the tape that he's put out there blocking.
Yeah. Well, think about how long he's been a part of this offense.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like this year was the first year that he was a big impact, player, whether it be catching passes or, like you said, moving people, and blocking well. So like you said, he's collected that tape, and not only this year, he's been a part of this system and part of Georgia's success for a few years now. So no, as you said, especially for like a tight end, not to, I don't know if there's any tight end, not to offend Ben Troop or anything like that, but like I don't think 1 year where you have a lot of tight end talent around you and maybe you're not the guy is going to kill your draft status by
Yeah,
any
out
right?
of Georgia has 3 tight ends on active rosters in the NFL right now. Eli Wolf,
Yeah.
again, he's a pass catcher, but first, you come to Georgia, you get that blocking tape out there. He's still in the league. Trey McKitty, kind of same thing. He transfers in 1 year, get that tape out there where I show you I can block. He's still in the league. And then Charlie Warner,
Yeah.
again, played with Isaac Nada. Isaac Nada was supposed to be the top 60 pick
Right.
kind of a guy, right? Charlie Warner, because he can do his job, he's still playing in the league with San Francisco.
Right.
So I think Darnell Washington can kind of be the best of both worlds on that, where dude looks like LeBron James, but he can also block like a tackle.
And the NFL is interesting too, right? Where it's like uh, everyone has their systems and the teams have their identities and well, the good teams have their identities and know exactly what they're going to do, exactly what they're looking for. So do you have room on your roster very much for a guy that can do it all, for a utility type of player that can do a little bit of everything? For sure. But then you also have other spots for those guys that's like, all right, like you said, we're going in, we need a blocking tight end out of this draft and we're going to get it, or at least out of free agency. And that's what we're going to get. That's the only thing they're looking for. Oh, that guy can catch passes really well. Well, it's fine. We already have Kittle. So we don't really need that. We don't need another one of Kittle. Let's get a really good blocking tight end. So like,
but see, like I feel like, and I'm not trying to undersell Darnell Washington because like I don't want to sell him off as like Charlie Warner was a good like pass catching tight end, but the reason he's in the league right now is because of his blocking. I'm saying
right, yeah.
Darnell Washington is a better blocker than Charlie Warner ever was, and he's freaky athletic.
For sure.
Like he caught, I think it was against Florida. Yeah, against Florida, he kind of caught that. They call it the old fall down route, but he more just kind of blocked and then leaked out to the left side, and Stetson hit him on the throwback. When he gets into stride, he is filthy fast, and he's got really good hands for someone that size. He can be an elite level tight end in the NFL, but a lot of people are saying because you already have Brock Bowers and Eric Gilbert's coming back, and they just got Oscar Delp, and he's coming in, who's another 4 or 5-star tight end as a true freshman, right? Is Darnell Washington maybe thinking, I got 1 year, let me just transfer somewhere, get my tape out and move? I'm saying he's already getting the tape out there for the NFL to be a first, second round draft pick. And I think that's what Kirby Smart's selling him on is, are you getting 10 touches a game? No. But what you have to be careful of is you could transfer somewhere and do you get 10 targets a game? Yeah, but are you getting the same kind of tape that you're getting in this Todd Monken offense?
True.
I don't know. It's interesting. If I had to put my money on it, Darnell Washington staying. And that's been interesting because there's been so much reporting and so much buzz around all these other guys who could potentially be transferring. Darnell Washington's camp's been super quiet. So if I had to imagine, I think he's pretty happy. Probably 1 more year with Georgia, then head to the draft and have a heck of an NFL career.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see. We got more college football talk coming your way. 3 and Out coming up a little bit later. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, and Kevin Thomas as well. We got more to come here on ESPN Radio after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokell alongside PJ Zuko. Glad to have y'all hanging out with us here on this Thursday afternoon. All right. You know, I like getting philosophical with you, PJ.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't even know if this is
It's a good time.
philosophical. I just think it's more, we're just having a conversation about the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, yeah.
So Michael Rothstein, who's ESPN.com's reporter for the Atlanta Falcons, said basically Terry Fontenot has the reputation for taking the best player available, which, number one, I don't know if it's fair. Not to take a shot at Michael. He does a really good job covering the Falcons, but I don't know that it's fair to say anyone has a reputation for doing something based off one draft. But if that holds true, if Terry Fontenot and the Atlanta Falcons draft the best available player, right, that could potentially be someone like a Derek Stingley Jr., depending on how you grade him out at corner, which the Falcons surely need. It could be something like an offensive lineman like Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, who could potentially still be there. If there's a run on quarterbacks, could you somehow, some way have a shot at Evan Neal? Something like that, which I think is the absolute dream scenario for the Atlanta Falcons. But to me, people always look at teams and they look at stats and they say, okay, here's what the stats say this team didn't do. And so for the Falcons, since John Abraham all right, you all right?
Just
Are you okay?
keep going.
All right. Anyway, for the Falcons, since they've had John Abraham, it's been got to get a pass rusher, right? Even with Vic Beasley and his fraudulent leading the league in sack season, you haven't had a dominant edge rusher. So it's like if Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson somehow fall to you, you have to take one of those guys. I've said this probably going back 2-3 years, but like Falcons fans have known this since before that. I think more so than one thing, right? Like people could say, hey, you need a wide receiver. Drake London's a guy from USC that's popped up a lot for the Falcons at this 8th pick, which
A lot.
like, right. Which I look at the Atlanta Falcons and I think, what is it about them? Like what's not working? Like their average is grits. And I think the only reason they're there, like they way overachieved last year with what they were able to do, right?
Mhm.
7-10 with that roster was unbelievable. And really the only reason you did that is because you have Matt Ryan, right? He's able to keep you in games. When I look at the Atlanta Falcons, I'm like, what is it? Like what's different between them and teams that go deep into the playoffs? And to me, it's one thing. They're soft up the middle.
Yeah.
They're soft. And I'm not, listen, it's all relative, right? Like anybody that's played defensive line for the Atlanta Falcons in the past 40 years could come through here and throw me through this plate glass. No problem. Right. But when I'm talking about in terms of playing other NFL teams, the Falcons are a soft football team, right? It's been finesse. It's been, hey, let's get Matt Ryan back there 3 steps, get it out, and then we'll hit it deep to Julio. And then defensively, it's bend but don't break, and let's hope the offense can score enough.
Yeah.
Right? Even when the defense started playing well, they've had some stretches where they were top 10-ish. It wasn't getting after the quarterback, and it wasn't slamming the door on the run. It was literally playing bend but don't break.
Yeah.
Getting to the red zone and just getting real finicky with the yards you're giving up inside the red zone, right?
Maybe come away with some turnovers and whatnot.
Sure.
But like, yeah.
And so I'm like, wouldn't it be great if at 8, the Falcons just said, we're going to take the guy we feel like makes us a physically better football team, whichever line of scrimmage that is.
Right.
Right. And you know me, I know I probably get annoying with talking about this. Football to me begins and ends at the line of scrimmage. And you can even go back to this past Super Bowl. The storylines coming in were Joe Burrow and Matt Stafford, but what ended the football game?
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Donald.
Yep.
Having the most dominant football player on the planet on your front into that football game. Right?
Yep.
What ended the Super Bowl last year? Tampa Bay edge rushers dominating 2 backup tackles.
No, that's true.
Right?
Yeah,
Patrick Mahomes scrambling for like 500 yards.
Running for his life.
All going backwards.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what ends the last few Super Bowls. And then when you get into games, I'm just thinking about like the Falcons, like recent-ish playoff history, right? Go back to what, 2011, where you play the Giants and you only score a safety in that game. Why? Because they had Justin Tuck and O.C. Umenyiora on that defensive line. Strahan was still on that defensive line, right? Like that's why
dirty.
That's why you lose that football game. When you lose to the Eagles and Nick Foles in 2018, right? You don't lose because they have Nick Foles. You lose because they have Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. No, you lose.
I know. I'm just kidding.
What was the score of that game? Like
it wasn't great. Yeah,
it was like 18-16 or something like that. Something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's just you don't lose those games because your quarterbacks or your wide receivers or your corners. You lose that because you get dominated.
Yeah.
On the line of scrimmage.
And if I remember right, like I loved the way Philadelphia built their defensive line in those years. Because if you looked, it was like the SEC's best or second best defensive lineman of the year prior. Right. So like
where's Brandon Graham out of? I know Fletcher Cox is Mississippi State, Derek Barnett's Tennessee.
Yeah. Graham was a while back, so he might not be SEC, but he's been there for
But to your
forever.
point, they just went and got the nastiest defensive lineman they could out of the nastiest conference.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, wouldn't it be great if the Atlanta Falcons could go out and just somehow find a way just to get physically tougher on the line of scrimmage? And I think 8 is a little early in the draft for Jordan Davis for me, because I'm not completely sold on the fact that he steps in and immediately becomes a 3-down defensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably more so what you're seeing is you hope like his ceiling is Vita Vea, who can be a 3-down lineman, but reality is he's probably going to be a 1st and 2nd down defensive lineman, and then you rotate him for an edge rusher on 3rd down and 3rd long situations, right? So I think that's a little bit early for me, but like I'm starting to look at offensive line, because I think you could get Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, who, I don't know, 6'5", 310 pounds.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty mean.
Just filthy. I like, and I'm just going to absolutely butcher his name, but watching him play this past year, and he has a wonderful nickname, Ikem Ekwonu from NC State. What I like about him is he's mean. And I know that sounds like, it's like, oh, dude, we're looking for tangibles. We're looking for how fast is his first step? What do his hands look like? Can he get back in his drop? And is he moving guys around the quarterback? Can he down block? Like, can he get to the next level? I know you're looking at all that stuff. I also look at guys who are just like, I'm going to physically dominate you and I'm mean. And he's also 6'4", 320 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. And he's just mean.
Right.
And it's like, to me, like if you can get somebody like that on the line of scrimmage for the Falcons, when was the last time the Falcons had somebody on the line of scrimmage? And I love Grady Jarrett, but there's just like, you're watching your team play them and you're like, damn, that guy's nasty.
Right. You're talking about those guys that are on the team.
Like, I know you guys hate Ndamukong Suh, but no one likes playing him.
That's the thing, is I get it. Like it's not that I completely disagree and despise everything he is. Like, I get his impact and I get the style of player that you're talking about when you talk about him. I just think him specifically, and a guy like a Vontaze Burfict, like they take that extra step that doesn't.
We don't have to
get
into this conversation again.
Right.
But what I'm saying is,
you want to match
that. I want fire
with
fire. So when I'm playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Ndamukong Suh's there, I'm not getting the nice guy who weighs 300 pounds blocking Ndamukong Suh. I'm getting the guy who wants to go MFer for MFer with Ndamukong Suh.
Because let's be real, this is the NFL, and in the NFL, like as you've been talking about, the best teams consistently, the best programs, organizations consistently are the ones that when you go to play them, especially on the offensive or defensive line, you have those guys, most likely multiple, but if the Falcons could just get one, that's a good starting spot. They strike fear into the opponent.
But even like, look at Tom Brady. Like, if you want to say like, oh, well, Tom Brady in his career, it's like, look at the defensive lineman that he played with. I don't know, Richard Seymour, who's about to be a Hall of Famer.
Right.
I know he's not a defensive lineman, but during like his peak, Dante Hightower was about as good as it got at like a will outside linebacker rushing the passer and then playing and sliding inside to the middle, like just physically different.
People might chuckle because of his size or whatever, but like with what he was supposed to do and what he did, Vince Wilfork,
oh my God,
that guy was a monster.
Yeah.
And he's the core, especially those defensive units. He was the core of that team. Let everyone else do their job because he was soaking up 3 blocks every time.
Yeah, and Brewski and Vrabel and just nasty defensive lines, right? That could just swallow you up, right? And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm like, the pipe dream right now for a lot of people is like, if like quarterbacks and offensive linemen like start to make a run at 8, could the Falcons like somehow luck into a Kayvon Thibodeau?
That'd be incredible.
See, you say that, and here's all I think when I hear that is Kayvon Thibodeau is really good, right? He is an excellent edge rusher. But okay, let's line it up for this year. I know you can't look at it this way, but it's just a problem that has been consistent with the Atlanta Falcons is you draft Kayvon Thibodeau. What's to stop him from being the next Vic Beasley? Because what happened to Vic Beasley? He was 260, 270 pounds. He's 6'4", 6'5". He's athletic as hell, freaky, right? what happens is they start getting swallowed up by tackles, and you can't stunt and you can't do this different creative stuff because your interior defensive line isn't good enough. And so they can start shading that way and just swallowing that guy up. And so what do you do from there? Right now, if they try to slide to the outside against Kansas City, Chris Jones is just going to massacre you from the inside.
Right.
Right. So it's just like, I get Kayvon Thibodeau.
You're saying you'd rather go OL than
I get Kayvon Thibodeau, but it has to be relative, right? Like if the top 3 offensive linemen that you would want are off the board and Thibodeau sitting there, okay, take Thibodeau. I
Right.
get it. But if something falls where it's like a Charles Cross is there or a Kwanu is there or it's Kayvon Thibodeau, I think the Falcons have to think about it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
they have to think about
totally
it. I
understand.
think Matt Ryan was like the 3rd most hit quarterback in the league last year.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, I think you got to think about it.
For sure.
Because, like, again, what is it going to fix? Like, next year you'd have, yeah, okay, great. You lose Dante Fowler this year. Say you replace him with Kayvon Thibodeau. What's the rest of your defensive line looking like? Tyler Davidson, Grady Jarrett, and Kaminsky?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you can still throw all your focus on Thibodeau at that point, and
Yeah.
and the offense is going to be able to get by. Then again, like I will say the same thing for the offensive linemen. Like the Falcons have drafted offensive linemen in the past that haven't worked out for whatever reason. You have all the size, you have all the quote unquote tangibles, and then it just doesn't work.
Caleb McGarry's turned into
but I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's
Caleb McGarry's turned into a pretty good NFL offensive lineman. It was the second pick where you traded back up into the first round that hasn't really
to get another offensive lineman
worked
for no
out for
reason.
you, and like a reach on a guy by like almost 2 rounds based off of the projections for everyone else that hasn't really worked out for you. But again, we really don't know yet. We don't have a draft profile yet, I guess, on Terry Fontenot. Again, he went out last time and took the best available player in Kyle Pitts.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. I mean, where did Michael Parsons go? When was he picked?
Yeah, he was a little lower. I think he was 10th or 11th.
Or Jamar Chase. I think we were talking about this the other day.
Right.
It's like if you could go back and repick for the Falcons, do you take Jamar Chase or Micah Parsons over Kyle Pitts?
Micah Parsons would be nasty, but then again, like Micah Parsons can do what he can do. Like his ability, believe me, I'm a Penn State fan. His ability is through the roof, out of this world. But there are other, like as much as people make fun of the Cowboys, you look at that defensive roster,
strong, strong.
Like he can do what he does because of all the people around him. So I would be worried about the same thing we're talking about with Thibodeau. Like, would he just get swallowed up?
Well, yeah, and it's just like
because there's not a lot of people around him in Atlanta. So.
It's like Derek Stingley Jr., right? AJ Terrell's really good. You can pair him up with Derek Stingley Jr. All of a sudden, you have a really good cornerback set. That's great. But if a quarterback has 5 seconds to throw, I don't care how good your corners are.
Yep.
Right. And I will say this also: people have fallen in love with AJ Terrell, and he's a very good NFL corner. I don't know that he's any better than Desmond Trufant was, and I think you've fallen in love with him because of these PFF metrics. Why would you throw at AJ Terrell when you could literally throw at anybody else who plays for the Falcons in the secondary? Right. That's, to me, is more so than anything why his numbers are so good, is because, okay, like that's a semi-good, competent NFL player the Falcons have over there, and then they have the rest of their secondary. Why would I not just throw at that?
Yeah, I'm going to look over here now and see.
Yeah.
So like tier list or whatever wise, A, B, C. If Stingley's available, and if like Thibodeau's available, but also an offensive lineman that you've mentioned is available as well, what would you rather see based on those three things?
If I'm being like 1,000% honest, I would go offensive lineman, Thibodeau, corner.
Gotcha. The Stingley's a monster, but I know what you mean. Like you said, it all starts up front, and you talk about the guys that have been in the Super Bowl and all the stars and all this other kind of thing. It all starts and finishes up front, and nothing more has proved that than the last 2 or 3 Super Bowls.
I'm looking like down in the 30s when you're talking about addressing potentially the defensive line. And like, I think Devonta Wyatt out of Georgia, I think Jordan Davis could potentially be available for you early in the 2nd round, right? There's going to be some really good players. Who's the kid out of Penn State? The edge rusher, Arnold.
Yeah, I can't say his last name. So
Kitty or something like that.
A-E, yeah. in DeBecky or something.
Yeah.
But no, he's he's really good.
Shoot, I almost cursed. DeMarvin Leal. Like, it was just because I just thought about him. I'm like,
yeah,
like, dude's a freak.
Yeah.
If you get DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M and match him up and he's I think like pretty much like 40, so that would match up perfect for the 8th pick.
Mhm.
Is he's 40th in like around that area in most like mock draft projections and on player ratings. Marvin Lil would be a wonderful guy if the Falcons roll out next year and it's Marlon Davidson and it's Grady Jarrett and it's DeMarvin Leal. You are feeling so much better about your defensive line than you did a calendar year ago.
Yeah,
Like, and you get him, and
absolutely.
then you have a new offensive tackle or offensive guard
Yep.
on the other side. Your lines of scrimmage are all of a sudden feeling not terrible.
Yeah, you start to feel a little bit more mean, right? A little bit more beefy, and that's like you said, that's what you need.
Or flip that over and who's it? Darian Kennard, the interior offensive lineman from Kentucky. If you go with like Charles Cross and you draft him, you go back to back offensive lineman.
Whew.
Happy with that.
Back
That's
to back
fine.
offensive linemen.
I know it ain't
like,
flashy.
where they're supposed to be drafted.
like people, I guarantee if you ask most people, I'm not trying to say this like I'm saying I'm smarter than anybody because Lord knows that's not the case. But I think if you ask a lot of people, okay, which is a better draft? Falcons get Derek Stingley Jr. at 8 and George Pickens at 40, or they get Charles Cross at 8 and DeMarvin Leal at 40.
Well, that's the thing.
Which one's a better draft?
People go with the flashy.
Yeah.
They automatically think, oh, Stingley, that's going to help secure our other side of the line or our other side. They're cornerbacks, and then we get a nice threat for Matt Ryan. But no, I mean, I'm there with you. You gotta get beefy. You gotta get more aggressive on the offensive and defensive lines first. You gotta build out, build in and out.
I want to get BJ's opinion on this very quickly. You can still PJ's Mike.
Yeah.
I want to get BJ's opinion on this because we just kind of put this out to the universe. If I say the Falcons at 8 get Derek Stingley Jr. and at 40 get George Pickens, is that a better draft than getting Charles Cross at 8 and say Darian Kennard at 40?
All right. I wasn't quite emotionally prepared for that. So you got to repeat this. Now
Okay.
I'm listening.
Yep. Derek Stingley Jr. at 8 in like one hypothetical draft, and then you get George Pickens at 40. Or I tell you, you can get Charles Cross at 8 and Darian Kennard or say DeMarvin Leal at 40.
I'll be honest. My gut reaction is go with the trenches, go with the line of scrimmage.
Because like our whole point and thesis here has been you can talk player or position by position with the Falcons, but they're just kind of soft on both lines of scrimmage.
I think you fortify where it starts.
And I think this is a really good line of scrimmage draft. And I would honestly, and PJ asked me to tear it out. If Kayvon Thibodeau's there or an Evan Neal's there, I'm saying take Evan Neal.
Evan Neal's not going to be there because at one,
because the
he's
Jags
going
are
to
going
the
to take him.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
BJ's trying to talk it into existence. Charles Cross or Kayvon Thibodeau for the Falcons.
I think if Thibodeau is there, I said I've said a number of times, came in with all the expectations, lived up to it each year, has everything you want. I think this guy's a star. You've needed an edge rusher for 25 years. I think Thibodeau.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. It's interesting. We're just kind of going back and forth on it, but that's the thesis there. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back with more second down next. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Had a comment, PJ, while we were in the break there. Just a question mark from Gene Clemens. He says, Grady Jarrett is soft? Question mark. Don't think I ever said that. I think I said Grady Jarrett was like the one bright spot on that defense. But one defensive tackle does not make a strong front seven. I mean, think about even what they needed to do with the Rams with maybe the best defensive lineman ever with Aaron Donald. Who'd you have to put next to him? Von Miller, maybe one of the best edge rushers of all time. So 1-1. And damn, A'Shawn Robinson's next to him, who's one of the best run stoppers in football.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It can't just be one guy.
No.
That's what the Falcons have been trying to get by with for the past 5-6 years. It's just, we got Grady.
Yeah.
So you guys think we should draft a defensive tackle? No, we got Grady, man. It's fine.
Yeah, it'll be all right. He's getting the job done.
I think Marlon Davidson's still a pretty big question mark. I think he could be a really good role player, but I still think he needs somebody next to Grady Jarrett.
Yeah.
Because there's some great videos of Grady Jarrett that you can see from this past year where he's got like 3-4 guys blocking him. And he's like, damn.
Right. Yeah.
All y'all?
If I could just get one guy and just destroy him, man, we could do some work. But I mean, I think like I get the question. Like, I don't think you ever directly said that, but I mean, that's kind of a microcosm of what we've been talking about, right? Is like Grady Jarrett got swallowed up in that conversation as grouped in with those other people who are kind of soft and have been kind of soft with the defensive unit for the Falcons, just like he has been with blocking. He's getting swallowed up, getting blocked by 2 or 3 guys because you don't have any other threats. So I'm right there with you. Not him directly being soft, but as a unit, as a defensive unit, has been soft and has been soft for a while.
Like, I don't want to think about where the Falcons. I don't want to think about where the Falcons would be without Grady Jarrett, because it'd be rough.
Right.
Dude's freaky good, and that's one of the best picks Thomas Dimitroff ever made, was going out and getting him. I think he's a 4th or 5th round pick, and so it's just getting him. Unbelievable pick. Devonta Freeman, I'd say, was up there too, but outside of that, things got pretty rough. Also, quick side note here before we have to take a break. Matt Ryan, if things stay the same, is going to be the biggest cap hit in the history of the NFL this coming year.
I saw that this morning.
Yeah.
It's
Bill
insanity.
Yates with the tweet. Now, does that mean Matt Ryan is going to make 48 point whatever million dollars? Nope. That is just deferred cap space over and over again. Matt Ryan is not the highest paid player in the NFL, just has the biggest cap hit. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back, wrap up Second Down next. You too can say hello to Kevin. Coming up next,
What a transition.
right here on ESPN Radio. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, and yes, Kevin Thomas. Coming up next with 3 and Out. Got a heck of a show today coming your way. Bryce Kuhn from GoJackets.com. Going to talk Georgia Tech spring practice. And then, hey, got some USL football talk. Nick Buchanan from the Houston Gamblers, former Florida Gators center, going to hop on the show to talk about that experience. An interesting way to draft, PJ, where you designate what position group you can draft from in the draft. So
Yeah.
you have to take a quarterback first round. And I told the guys this yesterday. I don't know how viable your league is when the number 1 overall pick is Shea Patterson.
Interesting. According to Jim Johnson, the next best great, since we just had him in the intro
Jim.
there,
That's right.
next best great SEC and NFL quarterback, Shea Patterson.
Shea Patterson.
Oh,
Speaking of next and great, maybe the greatest voice of all time, Ben Ingram, voice of the Atlanta Braves, going to join the show at 4:20 as well. All that coming up next on 3 and Out. We'll talk to everyone tomorrow.